Hello, everybody. You're listening to KPPP LP 88.1 Fargo Moorhead, adding local color to your airwaves. This is another episode of A Mexican Crossing Lines. It's streaming on Facebook at 88.1 at Fargo Moorhead Radio, on Twitch at A Mexican Crossing Lines, and on Facebook at Duke 1517.
That's right. You can follow us on Twitter at media_PPP. You can email me at cindy@kpppfm.com, Duke at kpppfm.com, or you can leave us a call-in message at 701-566-0917.
And make sure you share this out. It's going to be a great show. We're showing some independent media, the news you get before there's actually news. In fact, we call the news the olds.
Welcome, everyone, to A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPP LP, Fargo Moorhead. And we're going to talk about independent media. Now, a lot of people have created social media accounts, whether it's on TikTok or on Twitter or on Facebook or on YouTube or on Pinterest or on Getter or on Telegram or on...
Yeah.
There's so many of them now today, Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram and oh my goodness. Here's the thing though, folks. Platforms, forms of media come and go.
Yeah.
They've been coming and going for a while now. And in fact, you and I, we started this platform, 88.1 FM radio, with a goal of having independent local media creation.
That's right.
For the purposes of giving marginalized voices a place where they could go.
And we really started out with, basic radio podcasting in the beginning, doing things online, and we worked on getting the radio station that, hey, we could broadcast on the air. We happen to live in a really flat area. Our signal covers a huge area of this community, potentially over 200,000 people. So when people are on the radio, they actually can reach a lot of people in this community. Then we started working with the Facebook Lives and the YouTube videos, and that has a reach well beyond our radio station, because our radio station doesn't stream online. It's pretty much terrestrial radio. But the Facebook Lives and the YouTubes and the Twitch are anywhere in the world. We've had audiences from overseas, Britain and Mexico and Canada. And so it's an opportunity for any content creator to create content that can go worldwide.
Not just that. As many content creators are now learning, their content can be throttled, can be shadow banned, can be mass reported if people don't like the content of what you are saying. If you are spreading misinformation or doing something that violates the community standards of a platform, you can have your account suspended, and you can have your content taken down or your entire account removed. You can be silenced completely. And a lot of people are very mad about that. Now, here's the problem. Everybody can have a robust debate about whether or not a business, a content platform like Twitter or Spotify or whatever, can choose who they have on that platform and arbitrarily set the rules and the guidelines and the algorithms that control that platform and choose to cancel someone, cancel their account, and even to tell them they cannot actually be on that platform at all, like has been done to many conservatives, including the former president, and many people even in Congress have been censored. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene's lost her account on Twitter.
Yeah, a couple times, yeah.
So what is the importance of, what is the point, I guess I should say, of creating an account and creating a following and cultivating that following and doing the due diligence that you have to do in order to make sure that you cultivate those followers which is making content regularly, which is making posts regularly, which is cross-posting, which is engaging with your audience, engaging with the community, to just have it all taken away.
Yep.
Just all of it taken away. Boom.
So then you have to watch what you say. So were you actually going to say what you were going to say in the first place? So things will get taken away. There's community standards. I mean, we all believe in that sort of thing. But it's like these platforms, which make a lot of money off of all of us. They're making money. Just because someone has millions of views on their videos and stuff, and they get a little chunk of change. But the people who produce this, or people who run these platforms, they're billionaires because of it.
Yes. And here's the thing, okay? This is the thing that people are starting to figure out. A lot of folks became very powerful celebrities, influencers, if you want to call them more correctly what they are on Instagram and YouTube, for doing makeup tutorials and playing video games, right? They became celebrity adjacent. They became world known. I mean, they became rich. They became famous. But just like Hollywood previously controlled and the entertainment industry previously controlled who gets to have celebrity, whose talent gets to be showcased, and who is silenced and who is sidelined, just like the NBA and the NFL and all of those institutions get to decide who gets to have an opportunity and who doesn't. So do each of these platforms, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook. They get to choose. It's their algorithms, it's their community standards, and it's also their decision about how much you can monetize and when you can monetize, and they can change those rules. YouTube has done that. YouTube used to have very strict, not very strict guidelines.
Very easy guidelines.
Very easy ways in which people could monetize and grow a channel and become, have that be their source of income. And a lot of people did that. And then when they saw that lots of people were able to do that, they said, we got to stop this.
Yeah.
And so they began gatekeeping more effectively. The same is going to happen on all of these other platforms. People on TikTok are already complaining. It's almost difficult to watch some of the content creators on TikTok because in order to avoid mass reporting and having their account shut down and having the algorithms track their speech, they change what words they say.
Yep. Speaking in code.
They have to talk in code.
In code, yes.
It sounds silly sometimes to listen to these videos because you can...
what are they talking? I know what they're talking about. Also, to get to monetize, that's the correct word. To make money off your content on TikTok and both Facebook, you have to have an enormous amount of following. We're talking like 100,000 people, on TikTok, and on YouTube it's 1,000. But it's like that's a lot of work to get that many people, and it's a lot. Like Cindy said, people are posting, they're cross-posting, they're putting content up. They have content. These platforms wouldn't have anything if there wasn't content. So it's this double-edged thing of where the content creators are being leaned on, yet they're the reason these platforms are succeeding.
So let me offer a solution, because what we created this platform for is so that there would be alternatives that people could go to. And on our platform, we give people the opportunity to be heard. Okay. Yeah. We are nonprofit, non-commercial, and we are community based. So we want to elevate the voices of people that are marginalized and, frankly, that are taken advantage of on these other platforms, because they're getting rich off of your content, and they can censor and shut down your content and take away your accounts whenever they feel like it. What we offer here is that if you want your content heard on our platform, on our station, and also through our social media platforms, which we also use to promote the work of our radio station, You can do that without any barriers, without any censorship. Nobody's going to take down the radio program or censor it or take it away. Not at our radio station and not in our broadcast universe. Maybe the Facebook post about it will be taken down. Maybe the YouTube video could be taken down, but not here. We will not censor you. Second of all, unless, of course, you're using profanities, we can't broadcast that on the air. But other than the regular rules that are required for broadcasting on television and radio, we're not going to censor your content because you talked about critical race theory or because you're pro-vaccination, or we're not going to do that to you. The other thing is, you can find sponsorship for your programming on our non-commercial station if you want to. And if you do that and find sponsorship for the programming on this station, you will be able to keep a substantial amount of that sponsorship donation. And so we're here for the content creators to make it easier for them to not only make the content that they want without censorship and without barriers or threats, but also to be able to monetize without our station taking the lion's share of what that of that monetization is.
Exactly.
The way that it is on all the other platforms. So with that, I'm going to do Learning CRT at TikTok University Part 2. And this is just my clever little title, TikTok University, and also Learning CRT, because nobody teaches CRT.
Exactly.
And at any level. So it's kind of an inside joke. Nobody's really teaching CRT. We're simply giving you facts and information, world history and current events. And you can find all of that here from TikTok creators and other social media creators that we feel need to get more visibility, such as native TikTok creator Dolly Knott. That is spelled DOLLIEKNOTT. And you can find her on TikTok at OGD's Knots. DEEZKNOTTS, like the spelling of her last name. This TikTok video blew me away because there is so much conspiracy theories about the skull and bones, the Skull and Bones Club. I think it's like some kind of fraternity or club for the elites, or what some people refer to as the Illuminati, these people that run the world or that have all of this power in government. And this particular video talks about the skulls. So listen carefully, folks, because this is a very important and interesting piece of history.
I refuse to believe that I am the only person that did not know about this. Please watch this clip of Geronimo, the great Apache warrior's great-great-grandson, telling us who he is suing and why.
Maybe you've heard of the secret club called Skull and Bones at Yale University and the rumors that members stole the skull of Geronimo. Well, now descendants of the famous Indian warrior, they're suing to get it back. And as Deborah Fayrick reports, that is not all they want.
Geronimo hanged for murder.
Just his name, Geronimo, conjures up images like these in an American legend. A fierce Apache leader and his warriors, greatly outnumbered, fighting off the U.S. cavalry in an attempt to save his people and their way of life.
And he's eventually surrounded and outmanned, outgunned. He is convinced to surrender.
Geronimo died a prisoner of war, his body buried in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Now, 100 years later, his family is suing to get his remains back.
After a while, it hurts you inside.
Harlan Geronimo is the warrior's great-grandson.
He and other descendants are suing Yale University and the secret society known as the Order of Skull and Bones, claiming Geronimo's skull was stolen back in 1918 by Yale students, members of the secret order. One of the alleged grave robbers, Yaley Prescott Bush, the father and grandfather of Presidents 41 and 43.
When you desecrate a grave like of this nature, you upset the spirits. And sooner or later, the spirits will come after you.
For decades, members called bonesmen dismissed the suggestion as a hoax. But a bonesman's letter written in 1918, discovered 2 years ago at Yale, suggests otherwise. Quote, "The skull of the worthy Geronimo the Terrible exhumed, now safe inside the T. T is believed short for the tomb, the bonesman's private club."
I spoke with several bonesmen who told me that inside the tomb there's a glass display case containing a skull, and the bonesmen have always called it Geronimo.
Author Alexandra Robbins wrote a book on the secret order.
If it is found that Geronimo's skull is really in there, that's a crime.
Geronimo's descendants have also sued President Obama and Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, hoping to recover Geronimo's remains at Fort Sill.
He died as a prisoner of war. Still, he was not free, and he was not free to be buried in the old customary ways that the Apache would have been buried at that time.
Geronimo's great-grandson says he's willing to take a DNA test. He and his family want Yale University and Skull and Bones members to tell what they know. We attempted to reach Skull and Bones, but no one returned calls. Yale says the university does not have Geronimo's remains and that it does not speak for the secret society.
So the Skull and Bones name maybe comes from the fact that they were grave robbers that stole the bones of native people. I mean, we already knew that the settlers or the colonizers that first came here, they were starving, they didn't have any food, and they ate cats, dogs, rats, and other native people. But just to touch a little bit about Mr. What was his name? Prescott Bush?
Yep.
The
Bush Senior.
Yeah, the grandpappy.
Yep.
The great grandpappy of Bush's of the Bush Senior, right? Well, in addition to his to the accusations that he was a grave robber and that he stole the skull and bones, maybe that's where the name of the club comes from, of Geronimo. His father, Prescott Bush, George Bush's grandfather, was a director and shareholder of companies that profited from their involvement with the financial backers of Nazi Germany.
Okay, yeah.
The Guardian obtained confirmation of that from files in the U.S. National Archives, which confirmed that Prescott Bush was a director that was involved in the financial architecture of Nazism.
Wow.
His business dealings, which continued until his company's assets were seized in 1942 under the Trading with Enemies Act, has led to more than 60 years later to civil actions in court for damages that were brought in Germany against the Bush family by former slave laborers at Auschwitz.
Wow.
And this was all happening to a hum of pre-election controversy, as you can imagine. The evidence also prompted one former U.S. Nazi war crimes prosecutor to argue that the late senator's actions should have been grounds for prosecution for giving aid and comfort to America's enemies.
Exactly.
The debate over Prescott Bush's behavior has been bubbling up the surface for some time. There have been many steady internet chatters about the Bush-Nazi connection, much of which has been inaccurate and unfair. But this new documentation in the National Archives, many of which has been just declassified recently, shows that even after America had entered the war and when there was already significant information in the public purview about the Nazis' plans and their policies, Prescott Bush worked for and profited from companies closely involved with the very German businesses that financed Hitler's rise to power.
Jeez.
I think this is a really important aha moment for politicians in America, especially with the looming and pending possibility of World War III and the financial support of Putin, who is committing genocide right now on a massive scale. Maybe something to think about, guys.
Yeah, plus we had 2 presidents that rose to presidencies from that lineage. And now to affirm a black woman as a justice in the Supreme Court, she's going to be questioned down to any little thing to anything in her life, and yet we elected 2 different presidents from a Nazi.
Now, just remember, they financed Hitler's war, Hitler's campaign of genocide, and they were taken to court, and they had to pay damages on that.
Oh.
And their company's assets were taken from them, right? His company's assets, they didn't seize them until 1942, but they did eventually seize them. But here's the thing. Money that family made from supporting genocide was what established the Bush family. Yeah. That's what the foundation of their family fortune is, that set up their political dynasty. It came from the murder of Jews.
Yeah.
So, what are we financing, and whose money is financing so many Congress members right now? We need to think about all of these things. That's why it's important to learn history, folks, because these stories are still important today. Now, let's go on to a second TikToker that I think you should know about. This content creator is named Joe Burvell. And Joe Burvell is a Yale alum. He is a passionate doctor that is in the field of medicine, trying to diversify it, trying to unpack biases in medicine. Let me tell you a little bit about what he has accomplished. He is a third-year Ghanaian American medical student who went to Washington State University, Ellsford Floyd College of Medicine. He was the co-founder of Hugs for a nonprofit that's dedicated to empowering the next generation of high school students globally. Today, Hugs has mobilized hundreds of youth volunteers and has raised over $500,000 of material gifts and monetary donations, and successfully planned trips to Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, and Uganda. In 2017, Joel graduated from Yale University, where he earned a BA in molecular cellular developmental biology. He served as an elected member of the Yale student government and director of longitudinal mentorship programs based in low-income neighborhoods. I mean, this guy, after graduating, he completed a master's in medical science at Boston University, and he spent a year working as a clinical research assistant at Providence Hospital, researching best treatment modalities for appendicitis. This guy is bringing education. He's bringing diversity. If you go and check out his website, you can go to Joel Burvell. That's JoelBervell, 2 L's.com. You can find all that he is working on, lots of opportunities for Black content creators to get grants and mentorship and all sorts of resources, books and other things that you can look up on his website. And if you want to donate, you can go to ko-fi.com/Joe Burvell and donate there. Let's take a listen to one of his TikToks about medical racism. What does that look like? What does racial bias look like in medicine?
What does racial bias in medicine look like? This is a pulse oximeter. It measures your blood oxygen saturation level and also helps guide medical decision making. But studies have shown that it doesn't treat all skin color equally. Because of differences in how the skin absorbs light, Black patients are more than 3 times as likely to have inaccurate, overestimated, oxygen saturation levels compared to white patients. And that has clinical significance for COVID, since one of the main diagnostic criteria for COVID-19 is shortness of breath and low oxygen levels. Understanding racial bias in medicine can help save lives.
What?
Yeah.
We got one of those for you.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it doesn't register.
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes it doesn't work for darker skin colors. But let me just share with you that you know this.
Yeah.
I've talked about how people of color have been treated by the medical system, and you have witnessed it. You have been to the you've been to the emergency room with me.
Definitely.
When I have been very, very gravely ill, sick.
In a lot of pain and screaming and needing attention, and they're like ignoring you. Where does it hurt? Oh, well, we can't help you quite yet.
Right, and I have been I have fallen victim to not getting the adequate pain care, even when I had a shattered bone, a radial fracture in my leg that required hours-long surgery and many months of being bedridden. They didn't provide you with enough pain.
Yep, and I was supposed to
medication.
I was supposed to bring you back in the middle of winter time with your multiple fracture. You hadn't even had it worked on yet. You're just in a splint from the emergency room, and there's not enough pain medication to make it to the actual surgery. So what was I supposed to do? I was supposed to drag you out into the car and drag you over to the emergency room to get them to prescribe. Pain,
no, they
pain
just
relief?
left me in pain.
So you just stayed in pain.
They screw her. It's very real. They don't care, and there's been studies done that show that healthcare workers, most of whom are white, that healthcare workers tend to believe that black and brown people don't feel pain the same way white people do.
And some medications don't affect different groups of people of color the same way as they do with white people. So that's another thing too. What you're prescribed.
And there are many other ways in which the medical profession discriminates. I mean, to begin with, most of the testing that is done for any medication has been done only on men, white men.
White men, yes.
And therefore, the dosage, the way that it performs and the outcomes, all of those are all based exclusively on white men. There's a huge potential, therefore, for people to, fall through the cracks and not get the kind of care that they should get. So, this is a very real thing, and this is especially true of COVID right now that we're going through, because COVID has affected and hospitalized and killed more in communities of color, people that are disabled, and people that are immunocompromised, the most vulnerable in our societies. And it seems, especially pointedly here in America, like we don't care. Yeah. We don't mind that this is going to happen more for people of color. In fact, when you walk around today, you went outdoors today.
Yep.
We both went to get me boosted. I got boosted.
You got boosted.
I got boosted. I got boosted. I'm immunocompromised, right? I have asthma, lifelong asthma, COPD, and I have had cancer. So I'm a cancer survivor. I'm immunocompromised. And what the CDC has failed to do in terms of the simplest of things, recommend and provide N95. We have enough surgical masks, and we have enough N95 masks at this point into the pandemic where we should not be only providing those N95, those higher grade masks, but we should make them mandatory for all healthcare workers. We're still not doing that, dude.
No,
Did you know that?
I knew that. Yeah.
Did you know that in hospitals today, right now, you could walk into a hospital and they will tell you to remove, in many places, they will tell you to remove your mask, and they will tell you the reason why you should remove your mask is because the CDC isn't requiring you to wear one.
Oh, you can wear one anyways. You can't tell me to take.
Wouldn't. But they are going to tell you, Duke. You see, that's the thing. People out there that feel like they should be policing the rest of us are going to tell you. They're going to say, the CDC isn't requiring you for you to wear a mask anymore, and it makes me angry to see you wearing that mask. What are you going to do?
Leave it on.
But what if somebody walks up to you and says and tries to take it off of you and tells you they don't want you wearing that mask? That your mask offends me. Well, it makes me angry that you're so stupid that you even think the mask looks like it can do anything.
I'm gonna get in a fight. Hold my glasses. Hold my beer.
Is that how it's going to be? You're not going to let him? No. You're not going to let him do that to you?
No, I'll just put on this mask.
You'll disappear?
Yep.
Well, you know, it's funny that you say that. Your whiteness does protect you. I am much more likely to be policed by white people or by people that want to police others than you, as you also know. But I find that fascinating. I find it also very fascinating that the CDC at this level, when we have such low booster rates across our country, you know, we're not doing very good. We haven't even gotten half of our population to get boosted. That's the third vaccine, you know, after the first two.
And now I'm due for a booster because it's been 6 months, and I couldn't get one today because I don't meet all the criteria. Cindy's had cancer, and she named off all the things that would qualify for her getting a booster. So the government does not want me to be protected, basically. And they keep on saying, well, nah, you know, let's focus on the people getting their first, second, and third shot. We don't want people getting the fourth shot.
You're supposed to be able to get boosted if you're caring for someone that's immunocompromised. And before this, if you were someone that was caring for someone that is immunocompromised, they allowed you to get your vaccine.
Yeah.
But not the boost? What gives?
Yep, exactly.
CDC? Hello? I'm so confused. I feel like it's another form. You know, the reason that people complain about racism is because it kills, because racial violence hurts, maims, and kills us. And the indifference to the fact that people of color and vulnerable people and immunocompromised people are getting sick and dying more frequently, and that we're not doing our level best to stop that from happening, that the CDC has not got our back at this time, it will always be remembered. As an immunocompromised person, as a person that needed and sought that protection from my government and didn't get it and watched hundreds of thousands of countrymen die because of it, I'm never going to forget. That's going to be burned into my mind. That excess mortality that was just allowed to happen because it was happening to brown and black and old folks more than anyone else. And the American elite thought, well, you know, we needed to purge some of those people anyhow.
Yeah.
Don't let them die. Never going to forget it.
Yeah.
Now, this next TikToker that I want to share with you, her name is Amika, and she has a channel called Colorful Story. You can also find her at her website, colorfulstory.com. It's got tons of resource reading materials that you can look at. As the name of her TikTok implies, at CF Story on TikTok. It is about stories, but it is about Black history. So the colorful refers to color and people of color, and specifically Black history. And she also is one of two hosts of a podcast called So For Us podcast, and you can find that at So For Us podcast. You can also support this TikToker if you wish to give her a donation or a tip or buy her a coffee. Her Cash App as CF Story 06. So check out her response. This is a response she did on her page to a comment from an angry white person that said, white people are not responsible for racism. Racism is a communist term. It's used to demoralize white people. And this is what she had to say in response.
You go ahead and you do that. You are so upset that I am talking about Black American history that you will forward my videos to the Department of Education as a form of doxing me. I tell you what, those of you who follow me and are interested in American history through the Black American experience, be sure to go to my website, colorfulstory.com. Underneath additional resources is the tab Books, where you can purchase the Black History 365 textbook for high schoolers and college students. Or, if you are interested in elementary grades, 3rd through 8th grade, you can go to Black History 365 on Instagram, message them, and let them know the grade book that you want. You can order it that way. Let them know Colorful Story sent you. Let's make sure that we continue to spread Black history everywhere, every day.
I recommend that you go there. One of the commenters there was doxing. I mean, not really doxing, but forwarding all of the information about where she works and what she does to the Department of Education to report her for putting out resources and education about Black history. That's where we are in this country at this time, where people can't educate their own children on their own. People can't seek this education on their own without fearing retaliation from angry white folks that don't want us to learn, that literally don't want us to be educated, don't want us to read as BIPOC people. And we got to fight against that. Now, I just want you to hear one more response, one more angry response, because after she shared her resources, her website, and told people where they can go buy books about Black history and educate themselves and their own children, someone told her she doesn't know what she is talking about when she says that racism was taught through supremacy in this country by Americans. And this is what she responded.
You sure about that? You've been fighting for your life in my comment section. But let's have a little history session, shall we? Let's talk racial science and the founding fathers of racial science. Here's Louis Agassiz, who said that racism or white supremacy could be substantiated with science. He also believed that God was only speaking of the white race when he created human beings. Carl Linnaeus stepped to the front of the room. Carl Linnaeus ranked white people as the most superior and the most beautiful, while Black people being the most degenerate and ugliest. With a face like that. Here we have Samuel Cartwright. Samuel Cartwright was another one who decided to say that Black people are inherently mischievous and violent. And he fathered drapetomania, which said that it is a mental disease for Black people to want their freedom and you should chop their foot off in case they try to achieve it. You should read more. Okay,
I'm sorry. I messed up. That was the commenter that said that white people aren't responsible for racism and racism is a communist term that demoralizes people. In this follow-up to that person, she responds to another comment where they tell her that she doesn't know what she's talking about. Take a listen to her response. She's got the receipts.
Oh, I don't? Let's go to my library, shall we? The digital one. See that book right above the U.S. Constitution of the United States that was written by the Founding Fathers? There's a book called The Lost Cause, and it was written by Edward Pollard, and he utilized the same scientific teachings of Samuel Morton, Samuel Cartwright, Louis Agassiz, and Carl Linnaeus to write that book to justify slavery. The Confederacy had some daughters, and they decided that they were going to rewrite American history based off of the Lost Cause. So what do you get when you have white racial scientists who create made up science to justify slavery and racism, whose work is then used to push education in America? Try again. Just try again.
Yeah.
There's documentation. One of the things that white people are very upset about right now, as folks are already learning, and you can't see, just because white folks are ignorant and uneducated about the history of racism and slavery doesn't mean people of color are. Our own lived experience shows us that the remnants of racism and slavery and hatred are still alive and well today, just because we walk around in our skin. But on top of that, the one thing that white people documented the best, I mean, because they destroyed Black Wall Street, they burned down our libraries of our indigenous peoples. They tried to make it so they bombed BIPOC people's culture off the earth, but they kept meticulous records of what they did to indigenous and black slaves. They took meticulous records of the way that they experimented on indigenous kids, the things that they have done to our bodies. They even wrote a cookbook about how to cook black people, their slaves. So sorry, not sorry that stuff exists, but y'all wrote it, and now you don't want anyone to see it.
Yep.
It's there. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to keep talking about it. I'm going to keep promoting all of these different content creators. And Duke, if someone out there is a content creator and they want their content on our platform, how can they do that?
Well, you can send me a message at my email at duke@kpppfm.com. And we also have a call-in line. You can leave a message. Maybe we get into a conversation with you. 701-566-0917. It's a call-in line. You can leave a message up to 3 minutes. Give us a call and tell us what's up, and we'll follow up with you. And then we can figure out a way to get the information, tell you what we do with it, and put it in one of our shows.
So if you're a podcaster, you already got a podcast out there, and you want that content to be playing on our station, which is boosting marginalized voices, hit us up.
Yep.
Or if you have any other content that you know is radio ready that you want to send our way, hit us up and we will make that happen. And in the meantime, go check out all of those content creators, donate or support them if you can, and keep it tuned to kpppfm.com here on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You've been listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. God bless and good night.